of all, I wanted to thank all of you for coming out tonight, and I wanted to thank Buffalo Art Studio for giving me the opportunity to show this work. I've had a terrific few days here in Buffalo exploring your city. I recognize several faces from different openings I've been to the last few nights, so thank you for being so welcoming. I'm going to begin with a little bio on me. I've been to a lot of artist talks, and I'm constantly puzzled when artists just dive into the work without giving you some sort of context of where they're coming from. And in my case, my creative journey has been informed by my life experiences, and I just wanted to briefly share those with you. I was born in Georgia in a family of 9, and if you spend any time with a group of children in a house, let alone 9, you know the first thing you want to do is escape. My escape was into drawing. From a very young age, I was drawing. In high school, my high school art teacher showed me this painting called Painter's Painting, a very famous documentary of the 60s New York art scene, and it galvanized me to explore painting. So throughout high school, I was painting. Long story short, I moved to New York when I was 18. I studied at Columbia and pursued a Bachelor of Arts in Visual Arts and Art History. After school, I started showing in group shows around Brooklyn and Manhattan, and one show in particular changed my direction and led to a lot of the mixed media works you see here. There was an exhibition of Romare Bearden's work at the Whitney Museum about 7 years ago. If you don't know Romare Bearden, he's a collage artist, and collage is such a difficult medium to raise to the level of painting. Painting has such a venerated tradition, but what Romare Bearden did was really take it to this other level, and I was just blown away by that exhibition. In particular, the last room of that exhibition at the Whitney showcased his creative development where he was trying to merge collage with painting. He had made all these works in collage, had explored a lot of his friends in the Harlem Renaissance, made several famous works about Harlem, and at the end of his life, the last decade, he was really trying to bring painting back into it. So that intrigued me. I went home to my studio, and I'd never made a collage before, but I said I'm going to make a group of collages. I'll make 50 of them, and I'll make, I set an arbitrary size, like a modest size, about 22 by 30 inches. I started that series in 2005, and it took me about 5 years to make 50 of those works at that scale. And what I envisioned that project as was really an investigation into collage and painting and drawing. How can you test the boundaries of all three of those mediums and try and merge them? So a lot of the works in the next room actually are works from that series. And I'm going to talk about a couple of those in a few minutes. I'd like to start with this group of 4 paintings. These are all works from 2011, and they were exhibited in my first New York solo in November of last year. Represented by Lou Magnus Gallery on the Lower East Side. And I'm going to start with this painting. This is called Made in China. And when you hear that phrase, it's such a catchphrase, and it's usually uttered by politicians as in a derogatory way, talking about the trade imbalance or something about China or relating to trade. For me, I had read an article about China and Chinese manufacturing, and around the same time I saw the de Kooning show. This was last summer at MoMA, and what de Kooning and a lot of the abstract expressionists did was work in this decentralized composition, this sort of all-over approach where space is folding and unfolding in on itself. So I took that compositional approach as an inspiration, but I took a calendar I had that had all these views of the Great Wall and basically tore it apart, but was also integrating paint, in some cases drawing. There's some pencil line in this. Now, this piece and this work on this wall used this much more chaotic, organic structure to the structure space. And there are a lot of competing tendencies in my work. Some people have said I'm schizophrenic when they see my work. But this is just one way I work. I'd like to turn your attention, I'm going to be walking around a bit, I'm going to turn your attention to these 2 works on this wall. Another recurring element of my work is architecture. I'm often using architecture and vanishing points and horizon lines to structure space. This piece is called Library, and in it you see these three figures with these stacks of library books, these bookshelves on either side, one vacant, one full. This is actually based on a very famous photograph from World War II. It was after the bombing of London. You can look it up online. It's pretty amazing. It's a view of a library that's been bombed out. There's no ceiling. It's just open sky. And in it, there are these three figures reading amidst the rubble. It's the most surreal image. I'm often attracted to the absurd just as an inspiration point in my work, but that particular image spoke to me and I wanted to make a piece based on it. The piece behind me is called No Man's Land. And this piece, I think of any of the works in the exhibition, really is merging drawing and painting and collage, all these techniques in a single composition. On the upper right, what you have here is a hand-drawn image of the Three Gorges Dam in China while it was under construction. If you have the chance, look up images online of this dam. It's amazing. It was built in finished in 2006, but it really has this monumental feel to it. Now, on the other side of this composition is a photograph of a German mall from the 1970s. And then below you have this roiling sea. I think intuitively, in working with images more associatively, a lot of people have seen this work as a statement on environmentalism or the growth of industry and using a consumer-like space and saying something about the state of the world and the precariousness. I tend to try to stray from any linear what would be the word, explanations of my work. I like working with this loaded imagery. I'm more interested in provoking questions in the viewer and opening that space for you to think about how all these images might connect. One more note on this piece. This piece, if you look here, there's a lot of order. There's this sense of architecture. It makes sense and there's a logic to it. Whereas down here, it's much more chaotic and it speaks more to the two works back behind you. That's intentional, and it's something, there's constant tension in my work between order and disorder. And with that, I'd like to move into the next room and talk about a few works in there.